Hello, everyone. I am Corey Andrew Powell, and I'm joined today by Dr. Dustin York. And Dr. York is an associate professor at Maryville University in St. Louis. Now, he's worked in public relations for the 2008 Obama presidential campaign and also for clients like Pepsi and Nike. He specializes in helping individuals hone their interpersonal leadership communication skills in accordance with understanding digital transformation. So, Dustin, welcome to Motivational Mondays.
Thank you. Thank you, Corey, so much for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, me too. It's so relevant because, well, communication is key to, I believe, having a successful life and especially your future, being able to just relay information, process information, and know how to respond accordingly. So, a little bit of more of your background, though. You are a contributor for CNN, and you contribute to entrepreneur.com as well, Forbes, and you are also a contributor to Harvard Business Review. And I say all that to make sure people know that you clearly know what you are talking about. Okay.
Hey, I feel like it's part luck and part a lot of caffeine, Corey. I'm going to tell you the truth right now. There's luck, caffeine, and the right place, the right time, I think.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's a good combo. Nothing wrong with a good cup of coffee here and there. But to begin with the student aspect, because that's our big demographic, I know that there's always sort of concerns when it comes to communication in general to make sure people are communicating appropriately. But what are some of the concerns or considerations you've encountered with students specifically when it comes to professional communication?
I love that. That's good. That's a really good question, Corey. I think to start on the student side, right? I think there's two sides of this coin. And there's all of these, older generations saying, no one, young people can't communicate these days, and it's just all going downhill. And they're 100% wrong on that side. First, knowing that communication changes, right? Just like their parents and their grandparents said they couldn't communicate either, right? So this conversation has been going on since the 1700s of people complaining about how younger generations communicate. So first, we got to take it with a grain of salt. Communication does change, right? We're seeing companies use emojis within Slack and Teams within these companies. So, I mean, these are changing, right? So they're not necessarily just all bad, but on the other side, we can't just say everything they're doing is fantastic, right? One thing that I'm seeing most, I think we can really blame the recent pandemic, right? And so much virtual, so much, which is a skill, Corey. Like right now, I feel like you and I both should get like Zoom credentials on LinkedIn because I know how much time we've been on virtual and whatnot.
A lot of time.
But on the negative side, there's this, man, I'm gonna be the bad guy for a second, Corey. I get students that say they want to graduate and they want to work fully remote, right? They come out and graduate. I say, you don't want to do that. You do not want to do that. Yes, there's been opportunities. Those opportunities are going away slightly. There's always going to be some of those opportunities. But if you're a young person and you don't have a reason to be remote, when I say reason, I mean, are you supporting an elderly parent that you need to watch over? Then absolutely, remote needs to be something. Are you watching over kids or brothers, sisters, or do you have health reasons? If not, you say, I just want convenience. I want to do my laundry while doing that. That's breaking down that professional communication because at the end of the day, the unfortunate truth, here's how people get promotions. Here's how people succeed in no matter what job you go into, nursing, accounting, physical therapy, whatever it is, are those relationships. And how do you communicate when you're in a work environment? I feel like that is something that we need to get back into, coming out of, fingers crossed, right, as we start getting back into new normalcy. That's a really big communication key. What do you think about that? What's your thoughts as we come into this new world?
Yeah, well, you are spot on. I think it's a combination of, it's a combination of a few things, but one definitely being the COVID situation and having a demographic of young people who are right on the cusp of entering the professional environment as COVID happened. And so for many of them, their only reference for a work environment is a remote environment. Whereas you and I have a reference for a time when we all were like, hey, there's cake in the boardroom, and, and those stopping by Helen's desk and spending too much time getting to know her, what she did for the weekend and how her kids, like, there is a component that they are missing, but are they really missing it if they never had it? So
Good point.
it's such a balanced equation. I think you have to look at both sides, and I don't really know, what the answer is there. It's just
Absolutely.
it's. I think what I think happens is what I think should happen, and we'll be hosting a panel discussion soon about this. I think both options have to exist.
Mm-hmm.
To your
Yep.
point, some people can't physically get to
Mhm.
campus
Yep.
or to a job. They physically have restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
So by not allowing that, you are then excluding a
Mm-hmm.
portion of society, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of how I look at it.
Love that. Absolutely love
Yeah.
that. I think
Yeah.
employers, right, in universities and colleges have to be prepared and leaning into it, not just saying, "Oh, I guess we got to do this," but saying, "No, this is
Yeah.
part of our vision. This is part of our values,"
Hmm.
right? So I think it's both
Yeah.
sides for sure. That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And also I think you brought up a little bit of a point too, whereas there's a little bit of a bad rap. I think older generations will give to millennials or Gen Z because they're not embracing the fact that things have changed, as you mentioned. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
very different society. And in many ways, these younger generations are at the forefront of how our society will move forward. So it's almost like there's a little bit of a fear that the elders have to sort of like let go and like embrace the younger demographic because they are going to be the ones at the forefront of keeping your company alive,
Yeah.
basically. But you also talk about nonverbal
Mm-hmm.
communication, and we did a career webinar where we spoke about that as well. But give me a little bit of your take on the pitfalls of not understanding nonverbal communication.
Absolutely. So I'm a big nerd, Corso. I'm a big nerd when it comes to nonverbal. That's my doctorate. I did a lot of nonverbal work for the Obama campaign with media training and these kind of things. So really what's fascinating about nonverbal communication is it's your brand, right? We before we even started recording, we talked about the brand of your bow tie, right? That's a nonverbal communication. That helps me remember who you are. That kind of gives me an idea. Okay, who's Corey? He likes bow ties. He brands himself well. And if you don't brand yourself, you will get a brand, right? It's going to happen one way or another. So it's great to learn about nonverbal communication to help brand yourself. How do you show up professionally? All these like little things. I'll give you an example. When for politicians, I've trained a lot of politicians, right, and like CEOs of companies, and you would be amazed, Corey. You would be absolutely amazed the little things that are trained to increase trustworthiness, likability, right? Authenticity, all these little things. Here's one thing. So I was young when I worked, was my first jobs in the Obama campaign. And one thing we did was my job was to get up in the rafters, like these old auditoriums, right? These like college, university auditoriums that no one's been up there for a long time, dusty, spider webs everywhere. And I would change out the light bulbs, right? I'd be changing out these light bulbs. I'd have a box of light bulbs we'd carry with us. The reason for that is every politician, every CEO of a Fortune 500 company, at least a Fortune 100 company, has a certain light bulb that makes them look the healthiest. There's a certain hue light bulb. So every time we'd say, okay, which light bulb do we need to put in there? Because it caused people to trust that candidate more, that they are healthy, that they can lead in this office, etc. But to bring it more to a professional, right? A student who may be listening to this. Here's a tip. I'll give you a very tactile tip right now. Corey, when you were young or last week, did you ever play the lava game? The lava game where like you couldn't step on a crack because it was
Oh
lava,
yeah,
or
yeah,
you're like
yeah,
jumping from
sure.
couch to pillow, and then your
Hmm.
parent yelled at you for jumping on the pillows and whatnot.
Right.
But, so picture this: the back fourth of your chair is lava, right? The back fourth of your chair
Hmm.
is lava, so you can't touch it. So what you got to do is you kind of sit up straight. Someone stood at some
Right.
point and sit up straight,
Shoulders
for
back.
shoulders back. But at some point, this gets uncomfortable unless you've been trained to do this your whole life, right? Most people don't sit with good posture all the time.
Hmm.
So most people will slightly lean forward, just like this. Psychologically, when you're slightly leaning forward to me, I'm going to trust you more. I'm going to find you more welcoming and opening. So for like a job interview, if you're on a student board, elect committee, think about this. Instead, right, if you sit in the lava all the way back, right, so your butt's the back of the seat, you may start with good posture, but
Hmm.
eventually you'll lean backward. And just
Right.
that slight lean backward psychologically puts a barrier. Even for Corey, if you've never taken a nonverbal class in your life, right? No one's ever told you that. Something will say, you know what? That Dr. York guy, I don't know what it was. There was something, I just didn't connect with him very well.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that is nonverbal communication. We just don't know. We don't know exactly what it
Right.
is, but it's something. What do you think of that?
Well, I'm obsessed, by the way, just with the ID channel, right? So I will throw that out there. The forensic shows. And a lot of the forensic shows do a lot of observations like that. And so I'm personally aware of it, and I keep those things in mind because they will do these analysis studies of hand movements, gestures, body positioning. And of course, the old one that sometimes I don't know if I agree with, the idea of like this might make you seem unapproachable and guarded. Sometimes you just don't know what to do with your arms too. I mean, so it's not always that, but I do believe that we have to be very careful in those nonverbal cues. I've actually hired people or not hired them when I was in management because of the interview. A bit of a too comfortable type of thing was going on. And I was like, okay, this is not going to work for me. Um, but it was unintentional, I'm sure. The person just wasn't aware of it. It could have been a great worker, but I was immediately, you just, to your point, I branded them before they had a chance to brand themselves properly. So that was,
Absolutely.
I love that statement.
Yeah, and I tell
So
you what,
good.
something I'm going to give you some credit here. I'm going to give you some what I call flowers. I'm going to give you some flowers here, and something you do
Okay.
really well when you say hands. Have you ever seen the movie Talladega Nights? I'm a big kid, and I watch comedies with Will
No,
Ferrell.
I don't think so.
Okay,
No, I haven't.
so he has this scene that says, what do I do with my hands? He's like being interviewed, right? What do I do with my hands? And what you do really well, the best thing you do with your hands is letting the other person see the palms of your hands, right? So you
Oh,
gesture like this. And when you talk about like this, the issue really is I can't see your hands, right? This is
right,
like
right.
evolution, right? The reason people started giving handshakes back in the hundreds of years ago was to show I didn't have a weapon, right?
Mm,
Anytime evolution says I see the palms of your hands, I feel safe. I feel comfortable, even though I don't know why. So like when you're sitting at let's say you have a job interview, right? And you're at a table, make sure your hands get on top of the table, not in your lap underneath the table.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
those little things. And you do a really good job at it, right? I feel safe
Thank
with
you,
you right now,
sir.
even though we're Zoom or
Thank you.
virtual.
No, well, thank you. And it's funny. I'm sometimes have to be conscious. Now I'm using my hands, but I use my hands when I speak, and sometimes I have to be very conscious not to be like "Rah,"
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
overdoing it. But I'm expressive, and that's sort of how I do. So I'm conscious of it. It's involuntary, really, but I'm more conscious of making sure that I pull back, so I'm not like windmilling my guest for during the whole interview. But I feel like it's part of the expression of when I'm speaking, just to give
Mm-hmm.
that little bit of extra emotion. But people who are not comfortable with public speaking, that is something they should learn because
Mm-hmm.
in media broadcasting, I've seen it over and over again. People don't know what to do with their hands. And there's some tricks to help you with that. I always have a joke I use called holding the almond, which is
Mm.
just, this sort of,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
and that way they don't move, right?
Centered.
And then until
Yep.
I want them to move, but then they return back to this.
Mm-hmm.
It's little tricks like that, but I think people should learn more about the damage they could be doing to themselves by not learning more about nonverbal communication.
Corey, I'm gonna pitch you on this. You and we're gonna go on tour. So
Mm.
I do these keynotes for like student life for different
Yes.
universities in the U.S.
Yeah.
Right, and I do one on nonverbals and like leadership, and one on personal branding, how to build your brand. You and we're
Mhm.
going on tour. We're gonna get a bus. We're gonna go around. We're gonna use your techniques. We're gonna crush it. We're gonna
I
have a
love
fog
it.
machine and laser light
I
show.
love it. Oh, you know what? Count me in. I just tell my job, look, I'm going on leave for a
Yep,
bit. Me and Dustin are hitting the road, and
that's
we'll be
right.
back.
I love
Well,
it.
it's a great thing to go out and talk to people about because you bring up the other point is the branding.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so when you are putting forth who you are physically as well, it should be very authentic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. I had all my life been not really aware of, I guess, who what I represented. I didn't know, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the one time I finally did realize it, I went into my first job interview after college with my hair like just I didn't. It just I said, this is how my hair grows out of my head. I love my bow ties, and I'm just going to go into the interview and be me. And
Mm-hmm.
uh, I was probably like the least likely person to get the job,
Mm,
but I got the job. And I was
interesting.
told later on that, it was because I came in and I had a very different grasp on the
Yeah.
situation. But at that point, I had decided I knew who I was. And if I didn't get this job, I was going to get another one, but I knew I would be getting it as my authentic self.
Yes, absolutely.
And that is an important thing for people to understand too, is to show up as your authentic self.
Yeah, I think something that you do really well at. And so when I do this, personal branding thing, and there's this workbook with all these things. But one of them is exactly what you talk about: is a physical metaphor, right? Something physical that you is part of your brand. So like you get your bow tie, which is fantastic. I'm gonna remember that now, right? If you wear glasses and you like your glasses, wear big, colorful glasses. If you have big hair, make really big hair, right? Just pick something, right? That is your thing. If you're a sneakerhead, go all out, right? Talk about your sneakers. Like that's something that makes you memorable, right? Just like when you talk about your job interview, that's what candidates hope for. How can I be memorable, right? And that's in that circumstance. How can I add some sort of community to this culture? That's how you physically can do that. We're physical animals, right? I remember the things I see when there's a catchy ad on TikTok or something. I remember that, right? That's how you can think about yourself as a brand. Nike, I've worked with Nike, they spend billions of dollars on advertising. You should be thinking about how can I do the same thing for myself for job interviews, for leadership opportunities at my school, those kind of things. I mean, even a date, right? How can I make myself apparent to these people, right? These are all big, big keys. So kudos to you, sir, for mastering.
Thank you. Well, so far, so good, I guess. So it's funny. I would love to have a shaved head though, because it's sometimes in the summer. But now I've
Yeah.
inadvertently branded myself as the guy with the hair, so I can't
Yeah.
do it. But eventually, one day, I will maybe shave
There,
it off again.
there we go.
Now, you also talk about conflict resolution,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and I interviewed an amazing. She's a former. Well, she's an attorney, but she's a mediator now,
Mm.
and so she does conflict resolution. And one of the things she told me about it was she has to tell her clients, I know you told me what you wanted to do, but we need to analyze why you
Mm-hmm.
want to do that. And have you really made the assessment that it's the best thing for you? Or are you just acting emotionally
Mm-hmm.
in a moment? And so when I hear conflict resolution, I always think about Winter Wheeler's assessment. But please share with me how you deal with conflict resolution with your students.
First, conflict resolution is one of those things a lot of people are just scared of, right? I don't want to be part of it. I'll give into your side, or there adds conflict over time, and it's like the snowball effect, etc. So I tell you what. So for the students listening, I always like this is how I think. This is how I do these keynotes in my classes and trainings and whatnot. I try to be as applicable as possible. Like, give me something I can use today, right? Don't tell me about a theory or abstract thing, or Aristotle necessarily, but tell me something I can use today. So I'll give you this real quick. Here's how to win a conflict situation, especially in the first to begin the conflict situation. You and I are conflicting. Let's say something easy, right? You can obviously fill in the blank of something more high end, but I think vanilla ice cream is the best. You think strawberry ice cream is the best. Okay, you're obviously fill in the blank for your own thing. So we disagree. Here's how you think about it, right? From a branding perspective, from a conflict resolution perspective. First, I want you to go first on why do you think strawberry ice cream is the best? That's the pro tip. Rookies, what they do is they go first. Never go first. Please, Corey, tell me about why you think strawberry is the best, right? And you'll tell me, right? Strawberry, boom, 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 these reasons. This is what you have to do. Okay, this is a big point in conflict resolution, a big moment right here. What I have to do is I have to say literally this. Corey, what I hear you saying is you think strawberry is the best because X, Y, and Z. Is that correct? Now, don't be passive aggressive or like downplay your thoughts, right? Like you're not trying, oh, you just think this. No, legitimately, paraphrase what they just told you. Is that right? Your goal is to get, in my case, Corey, I want you to say, that's right. That's the key. Because here's the thing, Corey, if you just had your side about strawberry, and if I just jump into why vanilla is the best, what do you feel? You feel unheard.
Oh,
Did
yeah,
you even
yeah,
listen to me?
absolutely.
Right? You had no. What are my points? You were just thinking about your side while I was talking. So in order to de-escalate that situation, I want to focus on this is what you believe. I'm not saying I believe it, but what I'm hearing you saying is you believe it's X, Y, and Z. Is that correct? If I can get you to say, yeah, that's correct. I'm actually going back to nonverbals. I'm going to see you sort of relax. You're going to be like, yeah, yeah, that is correct, right? I'm going to see you relax. That sort of barrier, that wall you have up is going to come down a little bit. So when then I go into vanilla side, you're going to listen, right? You're not going to be defensive and trying to fight me as much anymore because we're having this kind of good conversation. I've shown good faith at this point. So that's just one tactical tip, that one sentence I would say students use immediately. Use with your roommate that won't clean up their side of the room, or Thanksgiving when that one family member is going off about that one conspiracy theory. use this use this strategy immediately.
Now, when it comes to professional communication, I know you also talk about leadership communication.
Yeah.
Is there a difference with those, or are they sort of synonymous? I mean, how do you just make a distinction between professional leadership and professional communication and leadership communication?
Professional communication is that I would say the first base, right? You're getting to first base just to show up as a professional. Those are those things like how well do you email, right? How do you keep up a conversation in a meeting? Are you just sitting there staring during a meeting, or are you asking questions, taking notes, those kind of things? Are you replying to email? That's like that base level of professional communication. How do you show up? What I call like as a pro. Like you can see, even with students, I can see, wow, you are a rock star. You show up well. And Corey, to tell you the truth, here's the secret that no one wants to say, is in a lot of these work environments, people who show up well, when I say show up well, I mean, you just literally show up, you're on time, you go to the meetings, you ask questions during the meetings, those kind of things. Those are the people who get a lot of opportunities, right? Because it just you look like, yeah, you care, right, about what's going on. That leadership level, I would say that's second base. In leadership communication, doesn't mean you have to have a title. Doesn't mean you have director in your title or vice president or you are a chair of your student organization. Literally, that's literally all it means is you have a vision of a direction you want the organization to go that doesn't currently exist. You say that and people will follow you. I think the organization should, this academic year, should focus more on DE&I or sustainability or event, whatever the case may be. And then say other people sitting around that room, that student group will say, you know what? I agree with that. I want that same thing to happen. That's leadership communication. How can you effectively see a future that doesn't currently exist, get people to follow you? That's all it is. You don't have to be president of your organization. You can be an intern or the first semester student of organization. It doesn't matter.
Dr. Dustin York, thank you so much. Associate Professor at Maryville University in St. Louis. It has been an absolute pleasure talking to you. And I can't wait for our students or our members to check out this podcast. I think it's going to be very, very educational for them. So thanks for being here today.
And Corey, you are an absolute rock star. So thank you for having me.